even crazier for the Toronto Maple Leafs as Brad Treliving has started the summer off very strong. I guess not even started off the summer strong. He's well into the summer at this point, making heists of trades. Like, they've been unbelievable. Some really smart moves so far, and he is far from done. Even he has said it. So we're going to break down everything that is going on with the Toronto Maple Leafs right now. Couple new moves that they're going to be making, and a couple targets that I think are very interesting that nobody's really talking about. So we're going to break that all down and welcome in everyone to a stream on a Friday afternoon. The Leafs are not doing any news dumps on Friday afternoons anymore, so figured we'd get a stream in. Nick is not here, but he'll be back in our next video tomorrow, and we're going to keep trying to do weekly streams for you all as the off season continues. But I hope everyone's having a fantastic summer so far. What's up, Shane? What's going on? Bo, I'm gonna call you Bo13, I guess. I don't know what your username is, sorry about that. But what's going on, everyone? Hope everyone's having a great summer. But first order of business, I guess, right now would be obviously we'll get to Jack Roslovic in a minute, but obviously the Leafs traded for Dakota Joshua yesterday, and I love this move very much. I was very upset when he re-signed with the Vancouver Canucks last offseason. We were live on stream when it happened, and I was visibly upset. I didn't like it. I thought that the Leafs should have tried to make a move for him, but it didn't happen. But now they have him, and obviously he had a down year. But listen, like, he was diagnosed with cancer last offseason, and he missed he had surgery. Like, he started slow, like, understandably. So, not gonna blame the guy for that. Had a down year, but man, what he did for the Canucks in the playoffs a couple years ago, pretty good in terms of goal scoring, timely goals, and you know what? I think that he's going to be pretty good in his role for the Toronto Maple Leafs on the third line. And I have to be honest, something I want to talk about in this stream is I think the Leafs are going to rethink their bottom six. And I'll get to that a little bit later in the stream, and I'm sure we'll talk it out. But Nicky Bobby, trade or keep. I think it's interesting. I think if there's nothing out there and you're going to get like a 7th round pick for Nick Robertson, I think you keep him at this point. I mean, like, there's no real incentive to trade Nick Robertson if you're going to get nothing out of him. Just keep him around. He's going to make just over $1 million, I think, in terms of his next contract, salary arbitration, all those things, and what we've seen in terms of projections. So, yeah, I think that you keep him maybe, but I think it could make some sense. I want to bring this up as well, that there's a name out there in Chinakhov from the Columbus Blue Jackets. I wonder if a swap makes sense there for Nick Robertson and Chinakhov. He's a guy that, has dealt with some injury problems, but you bring him in on the third line. Now you got a bit of a new look team and a new look identity in the bottom six. So I think that could make some sense. Like, Steve Lorentz and Scott Laughton, I think, are going to be on your fourth line heading into next year. Pizzetta is going to share time with somebody down there. And then in terms of the third line, you have Nick Watt at center, which I really like moving into next year. And then right now it's Dakota Joshua. You have Bobby McMahon still. We know that they want to trade for a top 6 player. There's a bit of a logjam, and they don't have that much salary cap space. So, yeah, Thomas with the hit parade. Dakota Joshua, I think it was 2 seasons ago at this point. In one of our videos, I said last season. Obviously, the season just ended. So, it was 2 seasons ago, I guess, that he was 8th in the league in hits. So obviously they're really valuing that. Spells the end of, from Shane, Kampf and Yarncroke. Kampf and Yarncroke are going to be traded. I mean, I'm sure they're trying to find a suitable trade partner in terms of, like, getting some type of good value back. But they're, like, at the end of the day, it's just going to be like, hey, trade them. Like, just get something for them. And what's up, Papa Polly? Hope everyone's having a good summer. Thank you to the 200 of you who are in here right now. We'll get to everything. Got a bunch of stuff planned here on the stream. And obviously, if you have any questions, like, throw them in there. Any, scenarios for the Leafs that they can make happen this offseason, if you want to see happen, throw it in there. But, yeah, there's a lot going on. Dakota Joshua, obviously the biggest thing yesterday. Assuming Kampf Yarncroke will be moved to replace lost capital. Exactly. Like, you're freeing up $4 million, by the way. $4.5 million, I believe, moving off both of them. That's a significant amount of money. You're back up to about just over $6 million, I think, in cap space, moving those two guys who, let's be honest, Camp didn't even play in the playoffs. I know he was injured to start. They threw him in for one game. It was that horrendous Game 5 against the Florida Panthers. I don't think he has use on this team anymore. He doesn't. We talk about one-dimensional players like Phil Kessel and all, like William Nylander. A lot of people say he's one-dimensional. David Kampf is one-dimensional the other way. All he does is defense. And is he that good at it? And penalty killing? I don't know. You're going to have, like, Steve Lorentz can play on the penalty kill. Scott Laughton can play on the penalty kill. You're going to have guys who can play on the penalty kill this year. So You move off those two guys. And let's be honest, Calle Yarncroke, I was like, I'm surprised what he brought to the lineup after being injured, coming back from injury. But that all that guy did in the playoffs was cardio, let's be honest. So that's that. But they do have some hitters, but they have to have quality for the playoffs first. I think they do in the top of their lineup. They do. One more player. They need one more player in that top six. And now we're really talking about a contender again, and they're a deeper team. So it's going to be a lot of fun. Lit Gaming, do you think that they end up trading Morgan Rielly, Brandon Carlo, someone like that? I have to be honest, when you take a look at, again, I have a lot of stuff prepped here, so excuse me, I'm going to try and bring up the lines here. But when you take a look at this defense, I think they're okay with this going into the season. And honestly, I don't think the defense or the goaltending was the problem at all last year. You can't score, and in the moments that matter the most, you don't play heavy enough. You do not rise to the occasion. I don't think that has anything to do with goaltending or the defense. So your goaltending solidified, at least for this season. Maybe start talking about a Stolar's extension. He's only 31. So maybe you start talking about that. But in terms of the defense, McCabe Tanev is unbelievable. I want to see Morgan Rielly bounce back, and I think that he can. I know a lot of people don't think he can. I do think he will be able to. And a full season with him and Carlo could be interesting, although at times, man, they both did not look great in the playoffs at times. And Benoit and Ekman-Larsson, I like them. And then obviously they traded for Thrun, who I think could be an interesting option, if anyone does get hurt. So that could be interesting, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. I would love McTavish. McTavish would be an interesting one. I don't know how available he is. There's a lot of rumors coming out right now about how available he is from Anaheim, and I think he could look good at that 2C spot with Tavares moving to the wing. Because I think at this point with Waugh on the team, Tavares is not moving down. That's for sure. So I think that could be interesting as well. I just don't know what you're giving up. They view McTavish as an asset. I think they'd be open to trading him. I don't think they want to trade him, if that makes sense. So we will see. From Tyson, is being good at scoring goals and just a lethal offensive threat the same as being one-dimensional? I think being one-dimensional is just if you're good at one thing, basically. So I don't know why anyone says they won't make the playoffs. Better depth already without the next. Yeah, this team is making the playoffs, guys. Like that's all coming from non-Leaf fans. A lot of you in the chat right now, I'm sure you are Leafs fans. All that noise is coming from non-Leafs fans. This team is making the playoffs next year. Austin Matthews could get hurt for like half the year. I still think this team makes the playoffs. I have to be honest. There's so much skill in this team. Nylander is an actual star in this league. Did anyone realize he finished second in goals last year? He's a star player behind Draisaitl, who won the Rocket. So they will be fine. They will be fine. I do want to see what they have up their sleeve in terms of one more player to add to the top six. Because to me, you can't get a project player. You can't get a guy who maybe could play in the top six because that's Michelli. You already made that move. You have to go get like a bona fide like guy that you know can do it to get up there on probably the second line. I don't know exactly what they're thinking. I don't think it's exactly this, which is on Puckpedia right now, but I think you need a solidified winger that you know can come in and produce points consistently. Because Michelli is kind of the guy you're taking a flyer on in terms of like a project player. I believe in Michelli. I do. I think he's going to be great, but there's a chance it doesn't work out, right? So we will see, but I do think he'll be fine. Shane saying, unfortunately, I think we're stuck with Rielly. We'd be crazy to trade Carlo after desperately needing a big right shot D for a decade. Yeah, I think that ship has sailed. I think like 2 weeks ago, there was certainly smoke to that. I think that the Leafs were looking at JJ Peterka like seriously, and I think that Buffalo was saying we want Brandon Carlo because we think we can compete for some reason if we add players who can play immediately. So I think there was smoke to that at the time, but with him going to Utah, I think that's calmed down. I think the Leafs are happy with Carlo, which is crazy. No one saw that Carlo trade coming, and it's unbelievable. Like, you got a solid right shot defenseman. Unless you're getting like a JJ Peterka back, who's a young, skilled guy who can put up like 70, 80 points a year, it doesn't make sense anymore. So obviously I think that ship has sailed at this point. So probably won't win the division, but we're 100% making the playoffs. Totally agree. And I think it's fine. You don't need to win the division. Where did that get us last year, right? It was nice. I think you needed to avoid Florida in the first round. Absolutely. But I don't think it, doesn't really get you any further. Florida didn't win the division, and they won the cup again. So I don't think that really matters. I do want to get to Raquel in a second. I think it's an interesting option. I have a couple other players too. Matthews and Marner injured last year, and they still won their division. Exactly. Like this team will be fine. You got a good coach. You got a good system in place. You got the goaltending. Both of the guys, great tandem. So I think they will He'll be fine. Leafs will make the playoffs. I think a lot of that noise, let's be honest, is from the outside. In terms of the Domi thing, I was catching a lot of flack yesterday. I want to address this. I said I wonder if they take a look at trading Domi because he didn't have the greatest season. I don't want Domi traded. I bought a Domi jersey. That's a Domi jersey hanging on the wall. I'd rather them not trade him so I don't have to like take the jersey down or anything like that. So I don't know. I wonder if I want to hear this in the chat. Is Domi a legit answer in the top 6? Like, we saw it a couple of years ago in the playoffs and it worked kind of well. Like, I didn't mind it at all. And I thought Matthews actually played better because he had 2 guys on his wings that went after the puck and played heavy. But do we think like Domi, like, is that the answer? You just put Domi up there and say, that's it. Those are our moves. We'll add to the bottom of the lineup. Do we think that's what it is? Because Berube spoke a lot about how it's not about Matthews or Marner or Nylander or those top guys. Like, the whole team's got to get going. So maybe that's the plan. You put Domi up top and then you fill in the bottom. Don't necessarily love that. And I would say I don't think he's the answer. But I do wonder if they're thinking maybe we just throw Domi with Matthews and see what happens. Because Domi's actually not a bad playmaker. Like, is he a better playmaker than Marner? I don't know. And I would rather stop talking about that player, I have to be honest. But Domi, I think, is an interesting one. I think it really is an interesting one in terms of where he ends up, and whether it's on the Leafs or another team. Anyway, if anyone missed it, Dakota Joshua, they traded for him yesterday. Let me know in the chat. But Domi needs to be given an opportunity. Let's get to this real quick. Domi on the right. Yeah, Domi on the right beside Matthews, maybe. Nylander and Matthews makes no sense. They're going to be split up on different lines, I think. That's definitely not the answer there. Playing with Matthews again. Trade for a first-line right wing at the deadline if it's not working the way it should. That's an interesting option. You're probably going to have to pay more for that, but I think that's not a bad idea. Not a terrible idea. Taking shots at the Leafs. Yeah, Buffalo hasn't made the playoffs in 14 years, but they've won more playoff series. Great. Enjoy that. Awesome. You haven't touched the playoffs since I was like a kid. All right. Like, it's so ridiculous. Anyway, I want to see how he does with Matthews. Many times in the playoffs, his line mates couldn't keep up with his quick and creative passes. This is true. That is also true. Like, Domi, I think, is an underrated playmaker. I really do think that. A lot of people just think he, plays heavy and he like takes bad time penalties, badly in horrible moments, but underrated playmaker. So I would like to see him play with Matthews again. Again, him and Bertuzzi were pretty good line mates for Matthews. So you have Nyes up there now. We know Nyes and Matthews works. Like, I'm excited to see what Matthew Nyes does this year. Like, I think the sky's the limit for this guy. 35 goals this year. That's unbelievable. That contract is fantastic too, by the way, especially as the cap continues to go up. So, remember that crazy stretch pass to Matthews. Domi needs good players with them. I agree. And I don't know if it's the answer, but I think it's something that, like, I wouldn't mind, right? That's what I'm trying to say. Like, if it was Domi, if that's what you were going with, I wouldn't mind that, I guess. I want Domi on the first line. It's from Tyson. Right winger. Nice. Matthews, Domi. Matthews and Domi also worked. Why not combine the two? It's an interesting idea. I just don't know how much Domi can produce over the course of the season. But then you really have to rely on your power play. And what was the problem with the power play, right? A lot of the same players are here. Like, if you think of the power play going into this year, it's Nyes, Matthews, Tavares, Nylander. Maybe Rielly's playing the point. Like, that's almost the same unit, right? You're missing one guy, and it's the guy who went to Vegas. So it's interesting. I also think Cowan could surprise. That's a good, little piece there in terms of, like, maybe that's a little surprise heading into the season. But I think they're going to make it very difficult for this player to make the roster again this year. I do. I think they're challenging him. Rise above everyone else. Stand out. When we watch the games, stand out, or that's it. How does everyone feel? I'm going to bring this up. I don't have anything prepped on these two players specifically. Rickard Rakell and Brian Rust. They make the exact same amount of money. Rakell makes $5 million for, I think, 3 more years. He's 32 years old. So his contract expires at 35 years old. He scored 70 points last year as a career high on the right wing. You would have to trade with Kyle Dubas. So that's interesting. But he makes $5 million for 70 points is not bad. That's really, really good production for that dollar amount. Brian Rust is another guy who scored 31 goals last year, hovering around 70 points. I think he had 65 points. Played on the top line with Sidney Crosby. He's a little bit older. His contract's about the same. He makes $5.12 million. So how do we feel about that? I feel like Dubas is going to he's going to say, like, I need Easton Cowan. And Brad Treliving is going to hang up the phone immediately, right? Like, Kyle Dubas is not going to be I don't see him trading fairly with the Leafs in a scenario like that. But man, they would be Rust or Raquel would be very interesting. I'm telling you. And Rust plays heavy. I'm not comparing him exactly to Zach Hyman, but I do see a similarity there. So that could be an interesting option as well. So could be interesting. That's for sure. Domi and Cowan are not going anywhere. I really if Brad Treliving ends up trading Easton Cowan or Bren Danford at this point, I would be incredibly disappointed with how much energy and resources they put into those players. I want to see them make the NHL with the squad. And Ben Danford is going to be the next Chris Tanev. That's what he's like, better, I think, in terms of all-around game. And of course, he's younger. Although Chris Tanev is a great defender, I don't want to take anything away from him. But he's going to be younger, more mobile. So I don't trade him. Rust is a product of playing with Crosby. I do wonder about that sometimes. He won't score 30 with Matthews. And I do think they maybe need more of a playmaker. Like Raquel makes it more sense to me on the top line with Matthews, because Matthews is the guy who's going to put the puck in the back of the net. You don't need another goal scorer with him, which is an interesting point. I want to bring up another player in a little bit. But Leafs are making a bunch of moves, right? They got $3 million in cap space right now, which I think is very interesting, because you can't add a top line player with $3 million. But if you free up cap space from obviously Nick Robertson is not signed, so it doesn't count to this. So either you sign him or you trade him, which is going to eat up more cap if you end up keeping him. If you trade Calle Yarncroke and David Kampf, you're freeing up like north of $4 million, which is great, because then you bring this up to $7 million, and then you can add a top line player with that. So I think that's very interesting. One player I wanted to bring up, people have been commenting about it, and I'm not just bringing him up because I covered him in junior hockey and I got to watch him play when he was in the OHL. I think that it could make some sense. It's Owen Tippett from the Philadelphia Flyers. They just traded for Trevor Zegras. I don't know if they envision him at center, because I don't know if that worked in Anaheim. And I'll get to some of the comments in a second. I don't know if it worked necessarily. It makes $6.2 million on a 7-year deal right now. He's not bad defensively, takes care of the puck in his own zone, right? He's not like a defensive forward or anything like that, takes care of the puck. I think in the right circumstance, the right environment, this guy can score 40 goals at the NHL level. I do believe that. He also plays a heavy style. He's not the smallest player. I think he's like 6'2", maybe 6'1", something like that. Not a small player. He's not like the most physical, but he doesn't shy away from that stuff. He can play a heavy style. He's heavy on the puck. I wonder about it. He's 26. He's in the middle of this 7-year contract, $6.2 million. If he scores 40 goals for that dollar amount, that's not bad. He's rated as a third liner right now. I do wonder about it. You can see his stats from the last couple of years. He had 53 points 2 seasons ago, 43 points in 77 games last year. So he's been consistently scoring like 25 goals in the NHL the last couple of years. That's on the Flyers. Keep that in mind. The Flyers are not great. So I do wonder about this fit. He's a right shot. Again, he's only 26 years old. I'm not saying the Flyers want to trade him, but 6'1", 210 pounds. When I watched him in the OHL, very physical. I think you can, in terms of, he's not looking to throw the hit, but he doesn't shy away from the physicality is what I'm trying to say. So he's not going to, run into the corners and stuff like that, but not going to shy away from anything. And I think it could be a very interesting option. I think he's ready and primed to go off with some good players is all I'm saying. So could be an interesting option is all I'm saying. I just wanted to bring up Owen Tippett. I'm sure we'll have a video on that as well. But I'll get to some of the stuff here. Jared McCann could be an interesting option, especially if you package like a Nick Robertson, right? And go trade for McCann. He only makes $5 million as well. So that's another interesting option. Can't play center, can't play the wing. I don't necessarily personally like players that can play multiple positions. That tells me you might be mid at them, right? You might be a mid centerman if you mostly play the wing but can play center. So I don't necessarily like that, but nonetheless, it's a decent option, right? Yeah, Cameron and Danford should not be traded. Sidney Crosby, Sidney Crosby's not coming to Toronto Maple Leafs. I don't think. Kampf with his Treliving signing. Yeah, Kampf was one of Treliving's first signings, which looked good at the time. Not good now. And Yarncroke was one of Dubas's last moves, I believe, in terms of signings. And yes, I think it was Treliving's first signing. One of his first signings, at least a re-signing for sure. Trevor Zegras has moved to the Flyers. Very skilled player. Rielly has a no trade clause, which is a problem. He has a no move clause actually, so he can't even put him on waivers. Not even like Jacob Trouba. Can't even threaten to do that. So Tippett is great on the power play and can score like Nylander. Absolutely. I love this player. I think this would be a pretty good fit. He can play on your power play. He could score at 5-on-5. He has a lethal shot, absolutely lethal shot. Underrated playmaker as well. And again, doesn't shy away from the physicality. And not the biggest guy in terms of, like, he's not 6'5", but he does have a decent frame, and he knows how to use his frame. He scored some ridiculous goals. He's very agile, very mobile skater. Like, he gets around in ways that are not you're not expecting, I guess. It's hard to articulate, but if you watch some of his highlights, he's not bad. He's not bad. I like this player. I had the opportunity to watch him through junior hockey and cover him, and he had a couple years, and then went to the OHL final 1 year against a stacked Erie Otters team, and was clearly the best player for the Steelheads at the time. So, really good stuff. So, Owen Tippett is going nowhere. Flyers are keeping him. I do believe that. I don't know why they would want to trade him, but I do think it's an interesting idea. I just wanted to bring that up. If Rielly's bought out, saves you $3.5 million, but it's 10 years against the cap. Don't buy out Morgan Rielly. Doesn't make sense to me. Not at this point in time. Not ever, honestly. I think he's going to bounce back. Who? Yes or no in the chat. Yes or no. Will Morgan Rielly bounce back next year? My vote is yes. I think he will. And when we're talking about bouncing back, by the way, Morgan Rielly, I believe, had 41 points last year. That's half a point a game in a full season. That's not horrible, but I think the problem comes defensively, of course, because he was running around a lot last year. And the other thing is his cap hit for not playing any situational, like in different situations, is not great. 7.5 for Morgan Rielly, who scrambles around in the defensive zone, is not ideal, because he's just playing 5-on-5. He needs to play on the power play or something, right? He'll be better than last year. No, Rielly's a liability. A lot of no's, but there's also quite a few yeses, and I do think he will. So, Leafs championship window is 1 to 3 years. I do agree with that. Welcome, Sports Stats, to the Magic member tier. We got a super chat here. Get the goal horn going a little bit. Who's pumped for the season? Let's get it in the chat. Who's pumped for next season? Can't wait to hear that horn again. Matthews is going to tuck 70 again. That's my hot take. He's going to feel good, and he's going to tuck a few next year. I'm excited. But thank you, Sports Stats. Appreciate that. Rielly will continue to decline. Need to move him before it gets worse. I don't know. I think it definitely, like, it's going to be a problem if he has a bad season next year again, because then it's going to be way harder to move that contract. But maybe not, though, because the salary cap is rising, and things will change around the league. But I think it will be very interesting to see what happens with that. I do think he bounces back. I do believe in Morgan Rielly. And I have to say, I don't like to get into the personal side of things in terms of players and stuff. I mentioned in the video very briefly. We've seen it in the past with Maple Leafs, Benoit and Tavares. The year that they have a kid, they weren't good. And then the next year, they bounce back. Tavares' that year, didn't have the greatest year. There were some games you're like, what is this guy doing? Same with Benoit. We were like, oh my God, Benoit's washed. What happened? He was so good. And we are big fans of Benoit here, let me tell you, on this channel. Before it's too late, guys, buy a ticket for the Benoit train, because it has left the station. So please, find it at the next station before the season starts. So big fans of Simone Benoit, but we saw it before. So I just want to point that out as well. You never know. So hopefully he bounces back. Rielly's 31. It's not like he's 35 and in the twilight years of his career. That's right. Like, I think there's something still left in the tank there. I do believe that. So Roslovic, done deal. Interesting. I do want to bring up Roslovic as well, because I have this prep. Hearing that there's a ton of trade chatter around the NHL right now, but it's all being held up by the Jack Roslovic sweepstakes. Once he makes a decision, I'm sure we'll see a flood of both trade and offer sheet activity. Now, offer sheet is an interesting one. Offer sheet for who? Because I don't know if there's any really good candidates out there anymore. Like, I don't think anyone's offer sheeting Nick Robertson, let's say. But and somebody did ask earlier if there was an update on arbitration. No, I don't believe so, but that's going to happen at some point later this month, I believe. So we'll see what happens with that. Wonder if he stays on the team. But Roslovic is an interesting one. I don't think that fits with the Leafs anymore, because they just traded for Dakota Joshua. Because if you're getting Roslovic, like, Roslovic is also not an answer in the top 6. So I don't think that makes sense to bring him in at this point, because you have Dakota Joshua. And, like, bring up the stats. I mean, if you look at Joshua's stats over the last couple seasons, they're pretty good. Last year, down year, we know all the circumstances and implications on that. Of course, 14 points in 57 games last year. Owen Tippett, I'll get to that again in a second. But Roslovic last year, like, not even half a point a game player, almost touching it. this is, maybe he can play in a top 6 somewhere, but I don't think it's for the Toronto Maple Leafs. Like, I don't know if they're thinking that. Is the answer Jack Roslovic? Really? Like, at 2 point something million dollars? I don't know if that's the answer in your top 6. Let me know how you feel in the chat, but I don't think so. So, that could be an interesting one as well. Now, somebody's asking, I wanted to get to this as well, later, thoughts on Chinakhov. Now, that came out today, that Chinakhov out of, which I believe that's how you pronounce it, came out of Columbus, that he has requested a trade. He's a 6'1", 200-pound winger who plays on their third line. I think that there is top 6 potential, maybe somewhere in there, but he's dealt with some injury problems. He had a back injury last year. You never like to see back injuries because I don't know if that's what Matthews was dealing with, but if it was, clearly not a good thing, and we just know in general, athlete, back injury doesn't end well. So he had that. He's a half a point a game player, though, which isn't bad for his cap hit on the third line. So the point I was trying to make with Roslovic, too, is like, you can bring him in on the third line, but now that you traded for Dakota Joshua, where does that leave a lot of guys like Bobby McMahon? Where does that leave guys like Nick Robertson, right? Like, are we completely rethinking the entire team here? Maybe we are, and that's okay, because let's be honest, guys, been talking on the stream for a long time. Love Bobby McMahon. Not very consistent. Didn't do anything in the playoffs. Dakota Joshua does do things in the playoffs. Chinakhov could be an interesting guy to pick up and just see what he does. And then on the other side of things, Roslovic, if you're picking him up, I think it's got to be for your third line. Like, I don't think he's the answer in the top 6. Let me know. But I don't think he's the answer. And I'd rather stay away from Roslovic, I have to be honest. I think you should trade for a guy who can come in, make a difference, and you know this consistently. Top 6 guy. So, if they have $7.5 million, if they dump, or they have $7.5 million, excuse me, this is from Diz. If they dump Yarncroke and Kath and pass on Rielly, need a bona fide top 6. I do, Robertson. I do agree with that. Hates the contract. Would you trade Danford, Yarncroke, and a 2028 first for Raquel and Rust? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. You don't need, no. No. I don't think they help that much. I would think about it if you're getting like a 100-point player. Something like that. But those are hard to find. Not Danford. I think he's going to be a big part of this team moving forward. Right shot, D, big frame, block shots. I don't like that trade. I would not trade Ben Danford or Easton Cowan. And that's the tricky situation the Leafs are in. You need a top 6 player. Mitch Marner's, he left. I do think that they'll be better, addition by subtraction, I have to say. I do think they will be better in that way. And more of a, team mentality heading into next year. Everybody on board, everybody on the same page, everybody signed. So we will see. Much love from Sudbury, Ontario. Shout out to Sudbury, Ontario. Thank you, Devlin. I think you've been subscribed for a while. Seen your comments, so appreciate your support here on the channel. I do recognize the name and Sudbury, Ontario, of course. So shout out Sudbury. And the Wolves. Don't like them too much. Not my OHL team. Shout out the Wolves. I think they're getting a new arena up there in Sudbury, actually, or a new complex or something like that in the next couple of years. Forgive me if I'm incorrect on that, but I thought I read something about that, so good for them, because that arena is very old, but pretty cool. Shot Shoresy there, which is pretty cool, so just wanted to throw that out there. But maybe Tippett could be an interesting. Kuznetsov from Nick99. We're gonna have a video on that as well. Kuznetsov is a very interesting one, which I think could maybe not could happen, but there's gonna be a phone call, I think, around that. He's been practicing and he's in North America again, so I think he wants to make a return to the NHL. He's a little bit older now, but we'll see. That would be an interesting one as well. Let me bring this over here so I can read this. Got some tech difficulties here live on stream. All right, there we go. Hildeby is the key for the Penguins. I mean, yeah, if you can make a trade happen where you get Hildeby going the other way, maybe a draft pick, I would do that for Raquel and maybe another prospect. But you can't trade Cowan or Danford, I have to be honest at this point. Sports Stats 6590 says, what is Ben Danford's potential in the NHL as a Leaf? Chris Tanev. I would liken him to Chris Tanev with his game. Loves to block shots, big frame, right shot D. Underrated at moving the puck. He's gone to back-to-back OHL finals. He knows how to handle pressure in high-pressure situations. Of course, the London Knights beat them both times. Easton Cowan, on the other side of things, beat them both times. But obviously they got there. They got there. And they played a really good team in the first round of the OHL playoffs this year. They got through that, went through the next 2 rounds, and then obviously put up, I think, a better fight this year than they did last year. So, there's a lot to that, of course. Try Robertson on the first or second line. Yeah, maybe on another team. I don't think it's this team. And I do like Robertson's game, and I do think that he offers a lot offensively, but I don't think that's where this team is going. I think they need somebody else up there, and probably a bigger body. I have to be honest. It's just the way that the game is going at this point, right? It's not 2015 or 16 anymore. So, I mean, look who's winning the Stanley Cup: the Florida Panthers. They're hurt. They're hurting other people. You got to get bigger while still maintaining your skill, and I think the Leafs have that. So, Nazem Kadri back to Toronto. How do people feel about that? We've been talking about that a lot recently. I don't think that's happening. I don't see the fit there right now at this time. And he's another centerman, so I don't see that personally, but it's another interesting idea. And he would waive if they wanted to make it work, but I don't see Calgary trading with the Leafs. I keep hearing about Victus. I keep hearing about Shen. Is he even an upgrade on Tavares? I don't think he is. I think that he's a great third-line center on this team, but you have a third-line center in Nick Waugh now, and I'm actually excited to see what he can do at third-line center. So Braden Shen would add a lot of like championship pedigree. He's a big player. If you watched any of the Blues and Jets series last year, this guy is an absolute freight train, like a very big physical presence on the ice. So I think that does, something for a team, but and obviously he's been there, done that, won the Stanley Cup, so he brings that to a team. But makes $6.5 million. The Blues want something probably big in return for him. He's their captain. I wouldn't touch it at this point. But Domi Kadri Nylander, I would have loved that line in 2018. They could still make it happen if they really wanted to. But move Tavares to the wing. You need I think you need like a McTavish up the middle if you're going to move Tavares to the wing at this point. I just don't know who you're moving in at the center position. I would only trade Cowan or Danford for McTavish because he's a big forward who can get a power play goal. That's an interesting one. I would like to see what McTavish's contract projection would look like. But I don't know. I don't mind this team the way that they're currently constructed with a top line player, right? So again, this is just from Puckpedia and what they have right now. So I'm thinking heading into next season, Nyes, Matthews, Michelli, Tavares, Nylander, somebody who hasn't been acquired yet. Thank you, John. I appreciate it. Tavares, Nylander, somebody who hasn't been acquired yet. Then you have Waugh up the middle on the third line. You have Dakota Joshua on the third line. Maybe somebody who hasn't been acquired yet either. And then you have Lorentz, Lawton, and Pizzetta / somebody else. I think that's what they're going with. And you're going to have 2 other reserves, I still think, that will slot in on either the third line or the fourth line, like a Nick Robertson, let's say, if they decide to keep him. But I do, with some of these moves that they're making, like Joshua, I think that they're actually trying to rejig the entire bottom 6 at this point. Like, don't be surprised if McMahon is traded. I honestly do believe that. He was so inconsistent down the stretch, and he's going to be 30 years old. Let's keep that in mind. Like, great story. And I think he's a great skater and can be physical at times. But holy moly, was he inconsistent to end the year. And not only that, didn't do anything in the playoffs. Like, absolutely nothing in the playoffs. So I'm not as high on McMahon as I once was at one point. I don't know if you trade him for nothing because you're not freeing up even that much salary cap space. Maybe he does offer something, but wasn't great. Really wasn't great. Who will improve the most next season? My bet is on Lawton. I think that's a good pick on Lawton. Improve the most is an interesting one because the team is going to look different. I hope it's Domi and maybe Rielly in terms of improvement. But I think you're right with Lawton. I think you're bang on there. I think that he's going to get comfortable. He's going to be here for a camp. He looked super uncomfortable when he first got here. He's been in Philly his whole career, and he was having a hard time adjusting. But he looked very comfortable once we got to the end of the Senators series and into the Florida series. I thought he started to look more comfortable. Wasn't scoring goals, but was playing with way more confidence and playing more physical. So a whole year with the Leafs, I think, will do really well. And a lot of people say the trade wasn't good. He's going to play a role for this team. He makes them deeper. And you got an extra year out of him, right? He didn't walk for nothing in the summer. So I don't mind it. McMahon had a tough place. Might have been injured in the playoffs. He's also injured last playoffs. This was his playoffs debut in this year, 2025 playoffs. So Cowan on the second line. I think they're going to make it very difficult for Cowboy to make this team. I have to be honest. I do think he starts the year in the AHL. It'll be interesting. Domi can play with 34. You've seen that. I'm not necessarily saying Domi is out the door. I'm saying if you look at the lineup right now, oh, maybe Domi moves down to the third line, right? Maybe Domi moves out to $3.7 million. But I think ultimately Domi will stay. I think they see him as a part of the team. He should be playing the wing, which is why I'm glad they went out and got Nicolas Waugh. There was another reason why they got Nicolas Waugh, but we covered that in a couple videos, of course. But that it's an interesting one. I do wonder if they just look at trading Domi. Just look at it. I'm not saying they should or they will. I said it at the beginning of the stream for anyone who's still here. That's a Domi jersey, the white one. So clearly I don't want to put that in the closet if he were to be traded. So made the investment of getting it. But Leafs could trade Danford or Cowan. We're in a win now mode. No, but I think they will be impact players for you down the line. I do believe that. I think they're two really good players. So, and if those are Wes Clark's parting gifts for the Leafs organization, thank you very much, because the rest of the drafts weren't that great. Puck moving D-man, who would you get? I think the defense is fine. I go into the season with the defense again. Did anyone have a problem with the defense or goaltending last year? Like, definitely not the problem whatsoever, which I think is a luxury heading into this offseason or in the middle of this offseason, that you only have to focus on the forward group. I think it's a really good thing because defense to me is solidified at this point. It's going to be hard to move off Rielly, especially this summer. I don't think they want to do it. I think they're kicking tires on Erik Karlsson. I don't like that at all. I don't know where he fits in this team. What do you want him to do? Play on the power play? For $10 million? No, thank you. Yeah, Robertson might come in at around $2 million AAV. Yeah, we don't know what's going to happen with arbitration, right? It could be making too much. I do think ultimately they trade him. Finally. We were talking about this last summer too, but yeah. Defense was amazing last year. I agree. I thought it was great. Like, overall, it was good. Of course, there was moments where you're like, my goodness, this is horrific, but we'll see. I don't think they make a move on D. I really don't. And they brought in Henry Thrun as well, who I think, in absence of, you know, Benoit or OEL, if they need like a couple games off or somebody gets hurt, injured, all these things, you throw him in. He has NHL experience. Young guy, NHL experience. Is he the best defenseman? No. I think that was a really smart trade, though, because they bury most of that money in the AHL to start the year. And if anyone's injured, you have a young guy who's hungry to make an impact, who has NHL experience, who can come into the lineup. Smart move. Treliving, got to be honest, guys. Haven't said it yet in the stream. Joshua being a Leaf after last offseason. This guy is cooking. I enjoy it. I hear that some want to trade a goalie. I don't like the idea. No, don't trade a goalie. Keep Wall and Stahl. It is so hard to find a good goalie in this league and a tandem. I'm glad you guys enjoyed that. Sorry if that was loud, but that is Chef Brad. And Chef Brad is loud. He is loud with his moves. So, and thank you for tuning in, Nick. Appreciate that. But Erik Karlsson is the next defensive coach. No, Erik Karlsson is not long for this team. Or they're not going to trade for him. Excuse me. And don't trade a goalie. What about getting Chinakhov from the Blue Jackets? I was talking about that a little while ago, a few minutes ago. I don't mind that. I do think that he can come in and make an impact on the third line. I don't want to get too deep into it in the stream, because we will have a video on this tomorrow morning. Deep dive into Chinakhov and how he could fit in with the Leafs. I really like it. I really like the fit. He's not the smallest guy, 6'1", 200 pounds. Half a point a game player when he's healthy. I don't mind it. He only makes $2.1 million. Stay tuned for that video tomorrow morning. I will tease it at that. But Brad is pulling off a masterclass this offseason. Any other questions or thoughts from you guys? We're going to wrap up here shortly. But any other even concerns you have with this team heading into next year? Because I like the way it's definitely a work in progress. Like, this is a very ugly construction project right now. But they're looking good. Looking good. I'm liking what I'm seeing so far. Like, Lawton as your fourth line center, a lot of people are going to scoff and spit at that. This is a deep team. Like, look at the center depth. Lawton was a second line center in Philly. He's playing fourth line center for this team. I like the depth that they have. And now there's more ice time for Nylander who wants more ice time to get going. So if anyone saw that clip with Berube during the summer, I thought that was a funny clip. But trade Kampf, Yarncroke, and maybe Domi if he's not a right winger here. I don't know what the plan is with Domi. I don't know what it is, but I do think he can play in the top 6. It's an interesting one. Now, Kampf and Yarncroke, gone. They're going to be traded. They're not going to start the year. There's no room for Kampf on this team. There's no room. Yarncroke, on the other hand, he can play on the 4th line. I prefer he did on this team, but we'll see. Alex Tuch, top 6. Who would you give up? I think Tuch is I like that player a lot. I don't think he wants to leave Buffalo, and I think he's going to resign in Buffalo. I do, ultimately. But I like that player a lot. But I don't think the Waugh line stinks. Yeah, as it is right now, McMahon, Waugh, and Yarncroke, I mean, that's not happening. So don't worry about that too much. These are just like what's on Puckpedia right now. It's off-season mode, so don't play too much into this, I think. Top 6 winger required, absolutely. And Alex Tuch is a top 6 winger, so I think that could make some sense. Why? What do you think of Tuch? Obviously, wouldn't be cheap, but would be a great rental. I wouldn't acquire Tuch if he was a rental. That's how I feel about it. If you're gonna get Tuch, you got to sign him long term, and he's gonna be making like $9 million. So take that for what it is. One guy who's kind of like Alex Tuch, like maybe, is Owen Tippett that I brought up earlier in the stream. Could be an interesting idea. Right? He's cheaper as well in terms of long term. He's in the middle of a 7-year contract right now at $6.2 million. But I like Tuch, but I think that Tippett is actually a very good comparable to Alex Tuch. So I think Philly's going to want a lot, but I think Buffalo is also going to want a lot. And ultimately, I think Tuch wants to stay in Buffalo. He's from there. And I think he's going to resign in Buffalo. I do. So pretty interesting. Kampf used to be a beast for us defensively. I think he used to have chefs in the kitchen, so to speak, like Chef Brad, cooking all off season long. But I think you have too many cooks in the kitchen right now with that 4th line. So yeah, profit. I love Tippett. I had a whole section on Tippett earlier in the live stream if you want to go back and watch that too. But yeah, I talked about Tippett for about 10 minutes there, where I absolutely love that fit. I think it could make a lot of sense. And in terms of what you're giving up, Tippett, Tuch, it's probably the same, I have to be honest, with what they bring to a lineup. So, and Tippett, I believe, is 4 or 5 years younger than Tuch. So, interesting. Who would you say is our number 3 goalie in your opinion? Ooh, that's a good one. Number 3. Matt Murray's gone, signed with Seattle Kraken. I think right now, like it's probably Hildeby, unless he gets traded to Pittsburgh. It's probably Hildeby. I think the guy, though, like heading into the future, like past Joseph Woll, the guy who they think they're going to usher in as the next starting goalie and the best, their number 1 guy that's going to lead them to a championship in like 5 years or whatever, is Artur Aksiomov. I think he is the next guy. The numbers he's putting up in the AHL are awesome, but I think they want to leave him down there to marinate, to develop a little bit more, continue to that. So I think it's Hildeby next year. Throw him into the fire. So no worries, Prophet. I appreciate you tuning in either way. So, but I do think it's Hildeby. So Leafs can get Kraus. Kraus makes, what does Kraus make? I feel like he makes quite a bit. And I feel like you can fill in your bottom 6 with maybe not better players, but I like the Joshua pickup. I think they're like kind of similar in that way. But I wouldn't get Kraus for the top 6 though. I don't like that fit in the top 6. Domi isn't going anywhere. A lot of people want to keep Domi. Does everyone, yes or no? You want to keep Domi on the team in the chat? Let's get a yes or no going. I vote yes, ultimately, but I wonder if they take a look at trading him. So, but I vote ultimately you want to keep that guy on the team. He also loves to be a Maple Leaf. And that overtime winner that he scored in Game 2 against the Sens, electric. Loved every second of that. And you don't know what you're getting in Michelli too. That's a good comment from Robert, actually. Because you never know. No, a lot of no's. Yes. Pretty even. Pretty even. Why can't you trade Lawton? You can absolutely trade Lawton. I just don't think that's the plan. I think they want to keep Lawton on the 4th line. I think he might have been on the 3rd line, but now you got Nick Waugh. So, it's fine. Natchez will demand $10 million. I've also thought about Natchez as well. I just don't know if he'd want to come to Toronto, first of all. Not that he has a say in the matter. But he's going to demand a lot of money. And he's a good player. I don't know if he's $10 million good. So, Bertuzzi back. I'm not trading for Tyler Bertuzzi if I'm Brad Treliving. And if I'm Brad Treliving and I trade for Tyler Bertuzzi, I will be unemployed. So, that's I'm joking, but I don't like that fit. I don't like that fit anymore. Not at the cap that he currently makes. I know the cap's going up and all that. Like, you don't want to trade with Chicago for Tyler Bertuzzi. It was good for a time. Alex Tuch is a good player. Would love Alex Tuch. I just don't think he's leaving. Troy Terry. We talked about Troy Terry in another video from Blizzard. Calling Wendell Clark. Wendell Clark should be back and wearing the C. That's what he should be doing. I also wonder, I just want to throw this out there. I wonder if, like, in 5 years' time, Matt Sundin's working for this team in management. I do wonder about that. They were floating that out last year. So I'll just throw that out there right now. I wonder if Matt Sundin's back with the team in some capacity soon. But Troy Terry. I like Troy Terry. Great right shot, playmaking wing. I think could make a lot of sense if you put him with maybe Austin Matthews and then you put Michelli with Tavares and Nylander. That would be very exciting, I think, in terms of, top six. And I think Troy Terry has been stuck in Anaheim for a long time. And if he were to go to a better team, he might be a little bit better. So we'll see. I like that. I like that fit. We talked about it in a video last week that I do like Troy Terry or McTavish. That works too. I just think your centers are, I have to say, I think Tavares has proven a lot of people wrong, including myself. I thought he would have moved to the wing by now. He's still playing center and well. Foot speed is a problem, but it always has been with him. But everything else is great. Face-off percentage. The fact that he can play the position positionally in the defensive zone. So, who's the top 5 targets for a top 6 ad? I would say 2 of them are on the Pittsburgh Penguins, first of all, to start. 2 of them are on the Pittsburgh Penguins is Brian Rust and Rickard Rakell. I would say for myself, it's probably Troy Terry, number 3. Maybe Owen Tippett, number 4. And again, this is probably just my personal list at this point. Number 5, I don't know. There's a lot of guys who already got traded that I really like that could have been top 6 options for the Toronto Maple Leafs. But thinking something like that. Something like that. I think 2 of them are on the Pittsburgh Penguins. Keep in mind the Penguins are the only team that are sellers right now. So that is it. Price for McTavish, a lot, probably, I think. Anyone have like a third one there? Jared McCann is a good one from Don. Jared McCann can play center and wing. $5 million player. That could be an interesting one as well. I do think that Seattle's going to want quite a bit. But I wonder if you go to Seattle and you go, hey, Ron Francis, does he even work there anymore? Hey, GM of Seattle Kraken. How would you like Nick Robertson, Bobby McMahon, and some pick? A pick. How would you like that? And we'll take Jared McCann off your hands since you want to trade him so badly for some reason. So I don't know if that would be realistic, but I think there's a world where you can go to Seattle and go, hey, how about Jared McCann? Can we talk about that? Hurt Locker. Yeah, Tavares 60% on the draws is unbelievable. He's unreal on the draws. So, and notice, like, Matthews is that guy for this team. The captain, scored 70 goals, great centerman, great positionally. Every face-off in the offensive zone when they're down a goal or they need a goal or whatever it is in a game, it's Tavares taking the face-off. Pay attention to that. It is Tavares taking that face-off because he is that guy. So, note to Matt Sundin. He doesn't know how to play hockey. I don't know if the Leafs lost that because of Matt Sundin and Cavalry. I don't know if that's true. Although I wish the Leafs teams have now played like those teams where you could at least go, well, you got beat by a better team, I guess, or by circumstance, not because they gave up, which is how the Leafs have been losing for the last 8 years. What's going on, Jose? Nice to see you in the chat today. Going to wrap up in a few minutes. Any final thoughts, everyone? Get some final thoughts in here. Thank you for tuning in to the stream. Going to get another one going probably next week at some point. We'll be traveling as well because, it is summer. So we'll be doing some of that. But we'll be back every day for a video. Always got you guys covered. And rolling into the season, we're going to have live streams after every game again. We got call-ins for anyone who's new here. Got call-ins after every single game. We live stream, break down what happened in the game, and you guys can call in, give your thoughts, and all that good stuff. So got that rocking when the season kicks off. I love what McCann brings. I do too. I don't know why they ever traded him. McCann was a Leaf. Dubas traded for McCann and then left him unprotected. That's how Seattle got him. Crazy. Favorite prospect. The guy, I forget his name. Koblar. He's just funny to me. Big body. I like him. But I think right now my favorite prospect, not to go with the obvious answer like a Ben Danford or Easton Cowan, Miroslav Holinka. My favorite Leafs prospect right now. I think he's going to be a real good player. I hope he is at least, but he's showing some cool stuff right now. So Miroslav Holinka, that's who I'm going to go with. Domi Camp, Yarn Croak for Jason Robertson. I think the Dallas Stars probably hang up on you, unfortunately. But I would love to do that. Will there be another stream soon? Yes, next week. We'll have one a week until the season starts. That's what we're going to try and do. Camp and Yarkroak will not be on this team until October 8th. If not traded, they will be waiver claims. How about sending David Camp, Kevin Yarkroak, Nick Robertson? It's an interesting idea. Nylander won't be playing with Matthews. This is just the Puckpedia lines for the summer. Last thing I will say before we wrap up here. Mine is Tyler Hopkins, if you're not including Cowan. I like that as well. Interesting story with Tyler Hopkins. He grew up in Campbellville, like maybe an hour outside of Toronto. Grew up a Leafs fan his whole life. Gets the call from the Toronto Maple Leafs. And his favorite player growing up, this certainly makes me feel old, Austin Matthews on the Toronto Maple Leafs. There's a video of him as a kid shooting pucks on his backyard, I guess, maybe skating rink, and he's wearing an Austin Matthews jersey. So that certainly made me feel old. But pretty cool story for him. So I like that pick as well, for sure. But I did want to say before we wrap up here, over under. Will the Leafs win 45 games next year? A lot of people think they're going to miss the playoffs. Over under. Will the Maple Leafs win 45 games next year? I'm going to go over. I'm going to go, they're going to touch 50. They're touching 50 again. This is still a very, very good team. Where do you think Cowan will play if he makes the team? It depends on the moves that they make the rest of the way in the offseason here. If they do end up trading for a top 6 guy, I do think he makes the team on the third line. So we'll see. But they're going to have to really, really, or he's going to have to play really, really well for that. I think they're going to make it very difficult for him to make the team. Slam the over. Absolutely. I take the over on that. Yeah. I think everyone in here is actually a Leafs fan. And all that noise that they're not going to make the playoffs is not from Leafs fans. So keep that in mind when you see that online. So, not Leafs fans. So, over. Everyone's saying over. Love that. Will Belly, I like that. Or Bell. I think it's Bell. Sorry. Can't believe I mispronounced it like that. Will Bell's a good one. Yeah, he's a big boy. I'm excited to see what he's going to do. Because likes to throw the body around. And we'll see how he continues to develop. Nancy out of the Owen Sound attack as well. I think he's an underrated prospect. I like their draft class this year. Leach is doing a good job. He's the one who was doing, I think Dallas is drafting for the last 10 years, and you should go look at their draft history. I like a lot of their picks this year. So nothing against Wes Clark. He would hit on a few here and there, but for the most part, a lot of the drafts, there's a bunch of nothing in there. So I like it. Tampa first. That's an interesting one. They made some interesting moves this year too. Toronto second, Florida 3. Even Florida's the best of the 3. Florida doesn't care about the regular season. Atlantic Division predictions. I'm going to go with Toronto Maple Leafs 1. I do think that they'll win the Atlantic again, I have to be honest. I'm going to go with the Montreal Canadiens 2, which might be surprising for a lot of people. I really, really like the moves they made, and a lot of their players are a year older. I'm going to go with the Tampa Bay Lightning 3, the Florida Panthers in the 4 slot, in the wild card slot, I guess. And then I think maybe Detroit takes a step. I don't know. I don't even know how to feel about Detroit. They have a goalie now, but I feel like Detroit's a lot closer than people realize. But I think Montreal is going to be a lot better than people suspect next season. So, unfortunately, I think they're going to be second in the division, which might be a hot take, but they got Noah Dobson now, solidified your goaltending, and a lot of your forwards are a year older. So, a little scary over there. We'll say that. But a lot of people picking over. Should be fun. Should be fun. At least they'll need a second line wing. Leafs Panthers round 1. We'll see. I said a 4 slot. I never said that they were in the first wild card spot. Because the first wild card spot is going to belong to the New York Rangers. So thank you everyone for tuning into the stream today. Appreciate all the support on the channel. And we'll be back for another stream next week. We'll do one a week until the season starts. And That doesn't mean the content stops. We're going to have a video, at least a video for you guys every single day through the summer. So thank you everyone for tuning in. We will catch you next week for a stream, and hopefully the Leafs make another move before then. It seems like Brad Treliving's on one move a week watch right now, so we'll see that. We'll see what he does next week. Thank you everyone for tuning in. Have a great weekend, and we'll see you next week.
Digest your daily dose of gold. Stories of the bold where legends are told. From first pop drop to the season's full. Tune in and watch the drama unfold.